This is a video for how to go about 3D printing with Ultimaker PVA support material within Ultimaker Cura and also using an Ultimaker water station. You'll notice that on the screen I have this kind of utensil holder. It's a cylinder with some diagonal slots cut into it, and when I print this I want some support material to be in these slots to be able to kind of fill in the gap when I'm printing with white PLA. So within Ultimaker Cura, I'm gonna be printing on an S7, and I'll show part of the video. Will show the print taking place, and also show how do we go about getting the PVA support material off of the print. And in order to do a print, I need a AA. I'm just using a 0.4 nozzle here with white PLA, and for the support material, we're going to have to go to Ultimaker PVA, which is just a natural PVA. I'm going to go to Keep Changes. Now, you're going to see that there's a thing up here saying that, this doesn't match the configuration, because with PVA, you have to use a BB nozzle here. And I'm going to go to Keep Changes, and now it's going to say, now we are legit with how we print with it. So I'm using white PLA. I'm using the PVA as support material. I'm going to come over to our print settings, and you can use whatever infill that you wish. I think I used around 60 with the print I'm going to show you. And as we scroll down here, when we get into support, we want to generate support, and we want the support to come out of Ultimaker's extruder, the second extruder, which is what we have here with PVA, and my support structure is a tree. So I like using tree supports, and I'll talk about branch diameters and trunk diameters. Tree supports are kind of for another video. I want to place it everywhere. I want to enable the prime blob, so it has an area to clean the nozzle, and I'm going to enable that prime tower for dual extrusion. So I'm going to go ahead and say slice with this, and I'm going to let Cura go through and kind of, set everything up for the print. Shouldn't take us too long to where I need to, pause the video or anything. And we'll be going up and checking out the preview up here to see how that PVA looks, and how the support is going to be distributed throughout the print. So I'm going to go ahead and pause I'm going to hit pause on the recording real quick. It looks like it's taking a little bit longer than I expected. I'm just going to say pause, and we'll come back. So after waiting for a little bit, it shows that our print's going to take 18 hours and 55 minutes. I can come hover over here, and it'll tell us exactly how much material we'll be using. So I'm going to have about 265 grams of white PLA and about 39 grams of PVA. PVA stands for polyvinyl alcohol. That's our support material. If I come up to preview, I can get an idea of what the layering will look like, and you can see that over here on the side. Let's go to our front view here. You can see I got the tree supports in here. I got it all here in the middle. I can look down on from the top, and I can see those supports coming up and holding things up. The print that I did, I might have gone in and had the support material in a little bit of a different spot, but this is what tree supports look like, and this is just PVA that is going to completely and totally dissolve when we put that into the water station. So the next part of the video, I'll show you the print actually taking place and how we go about taking it out and using it in the water station. You will notice at this point I've exported the print to my Ultimaker S7, and you can see the PVA as the support material didn't come out looking exactly like it did when I sliced it in Cura, but you can see that that's providing support for those cut slots in the side of the cylinder. So we have a dual nozzle print, and then once we're done with the print, we can just lift up the metal tray that's magnetized. It's held down by a magnet, and take it just right out of the S7. It's real nice and easy to take a print out of an S7 or an S8, and once you have that metal tray out, you can just bend it and just pops right off. You can even take that prime tower off real simple, comes off real nice and clean. And then in the background you see the Ultimaker water station. You can see on the bottom also I have some support material that I'll have to clip off later. That's actually just PLA material, just putting it to the print bed. So here's our water station. To place it in the water station, all we really have to do is just take the lid off, and you'll see a cage inside, and the cage will hold your print with that PVA inside that water, so it doesn't come up out of the water, float up too high. And that PVA, that polyvinyl alcohol, is going to dissolve in the water. So we want to make sure we keep that underwater as much as we can, and that's what the lid on top of the cage does. So you'll have to put the lid back on top of your water station, and then you're going to see two buttons on the front of the water station. I have the power button on the left, and then there is a button on the right that has this little kind of fan on the bottom that will rotate the water, and it will rotate the water in one direction for a few seconds, and then it'll stop and it'll turn and it'll rotate the other direction. The main thing to keep the water moving is so it's constantly passing over that PVA support material, because we want it to dissolve as quickly as possible. So in keeping that water moving, it just increases it decreases the amount of time we would have to keep this in water. Before, I would just keep it in water and just kind of set it in a tank. It took a long time for it to dissolve. What you're seeing here is a time-lapse video, and you can see that PVA, over time, just dissolving and kind of moving around. One thing I did during the time lapse is I actually took the print out, turned it upside down. You're going to see it kind of shift a little bit here on us. But I wanted to make sure all that PVA got out. So sometimes what you can do also is get a toothbrush when you take the print out and kind of brush out some of that PVA. Sometimes in the little nook and crannies, it can kind of get stuck in there. Once you're done using the water station, you can just take the lid off, and we're just going to open up the cage. The cage has a little bit of a latch on it, so sometimes it can be a little bit wonky, opening up that part of the cage. You can see me struggle with it just a little bit here. But as I take the print out, you're going to notice that all the PVA is gone, and you'll see it a little bit better with that black background. And I have some things to snip off the bottom. I have that PLA that attached the print to the bed with that little bit of a skirt or like a base. But you can see all the PVA is gone, and that's a nice looking print. So this has been a video for how to go about printing with PVA in Ultimaker Cura and an Ultimaker S series printer.